Boom. Okay, y'all know what day it is. Actually, you probably don't. It is arrow building day. So this is gonna be in sequel, I guess, of my bow build. As I said, I'm gonna try to be a little bit more specific in this video, just talking about my arrows. We're gonna put some together and I'll let you know all the specs and everything. I'm not a professional, you guys know this. So we're just gonna have to get through this together, but we'll see how it goes. Should be fun. And I need to start practicing anyway. It's May, almost June. So it's time to start shooting this summer and practicing up. And also my poundage on my bow is set to 43 currently, simply because I'm trying to work on having better form. So we're gonna work on that, and then I'm gonna up my poundage. Last year I shot about 47, so I'm gonna at least try to work up to that, maybe higher. We'll see how the summer goes. So that's what we're gonna do. Well, first things first, grabbing my arrows. Head back here. Okay. I've got one already done from my video, as you guys know. And basically, my setup is gonna be the exact same as last year, except instead of the Axis SPTs, these are just the regular Easton Axis. But I'm gonna do the 4 Fletch. These are the AAE Hybrid 2.3 inches. And I'm going with green this year, as you guys know. I've got Korbin's custom wraps on. Obviously very similar to last year. So yeah, we're gonna try them out. I really don't know what I think of the Eastons, simply because I shot one deer last year. It wasn't the best shot, so I really can't talk a whole lot about them. And to be honest, I didn't really get to practice as much as I would have liked to, just due to where I lived. There wasn't a lot of availability for me to do that. So now that I have a yard and this shop to shoot in, we can now shoot and practice, and I can really test these arrows out. So Korbin sent me 2 dozen, which is a lot, I know, but between hunts and practicing, I like to have a practice set and a hunting set. Obviously that's probably not feasible for everyone because it does get expensive. But I like to do that. That way I have just extra arrows. And when I first got these, I rolled a few and I put X's on the arrows that were spinning crooked, meaning they're not perfectly straight. Granted, I'm probably gonna practice out to about 60 yards and I'll be hunting to about 40. So really, if they're not perfectly straight, it's not the end of the world. But those are probably gonna be more like practice set than actual hunting set, because I did get a bunch that rolled perfect. So that's kind of just like something I like to do. It's not exactly necessary unless you're shooting really far. So anyway, we got 2 dozen and we're gonna fletch these up and cut them and just go through the process, and hopefully they turn out okay. If I mess up, those are practice ones too. So yeah, let's go. Okay, so currently it's at 24, but I think I'm gonna do the length of the, so this would be 24, but I think I'm gonna do an extra like inch or so. That way when I put the insert and the tip on, it'll be this much longer. So like out to here. And my reason for that, let me actually show you guys. I'll show you in a second as soon as I get this. Okay. So we're at 25, we're gonna do 25 and 3/16. That looks good. Tighten that down. Okay. So this is gonna be a throwaway arrow. Luckily I have enough to replace it. So anyway, the reason that I want to make my arrows a touch longer is because when I draw back currently, I'll just show you roughly how it is. It sits about like that right now, and I would like to have a little bit more clearance, roughly like this, because I don't really want my broadhead to be right by my hand. So we're gonna pop it out a little bit. That's why I made them a little longer. It shouldn't really have too many issues with tuning or anything like that, so we'll see. But yeah, that's my reasoning. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a few for video purposes, because if I sat here and did them all, it would take all day. So these are gonna be my practice set, because they're the ones that don't quite roll perfectly straight. There's a little wobble in them. Again, that doesn't really matter in my situation, but depending on how particular you are, it's good to do a roll test, which there's a specific device for rolling, and I cannot think of what it's called, nor can I find it. Anyway, I did the roll test prior to this. So, we are gonna leave the nocks in for cutting. And move that out of the way. I'll make sure this is tight at 25 and 3/16. And we got a foot pedal, and basically we're just gonna roll the arrow into the blade and see how straight we can get it. And I know it seems like I'm a rookie here, but I actually used to work in a factory where I cut metal all day long and helped do all kinds of aluminum fabrication stuff. So not a total noob at this, but arrows is a different story. Get all the dust out of there. They don't look terrible. We're gonna do the inserts first. So what I've got is they're just the inserts that came with this set of arrows. 5mm half out, number 2s, aluminum, 25 grains. This is what you get. So that's what I'm using. And let's see, I had okay, we've got an open pack here. So like I said, I'm just gonna do these 3. This is what they look like. So they're kind of a wider front. To be honest, I'm not sure if there's any sort of advantage to that. I think it's just the type. See how they're a little bit wider? I don't know, to be honest. So we're gonna trust Korbin and use them, which I used them last year, so even practicing and stuff, like, I don't know. I don't truly know what the difference is between a wider or a narrow. So what we got is insert glue, I guess. I don't even know what this would be called. Insert glue. It's like a bar, and we're gonna melt it, and you just pretty much roll your insert on it stick it in your arrow, let it harden a little, and then peel off the excess. This is the first time I'm actually doing this without any help, so torch. Okay, so I know that was a terrible demonstration, but basically just heated up the wax. Obviously be careful because you can burn yourself. That doesn't look the greatest, but that's why we have practice runs. Okay, so heating up the wax, then you just do a small amount on the insert, which I just did it in this little pocket of where it's like skinnier. I don't think you need a whole lot, just enough. And then you just put your arrow on, and then you gotta apply some pressure. Then it'll look like this, so I don't burn myself here. Let's turn that off, okay. Roughly, and you're just gonna peel off the excess. There you have it. Okay, that went way smoother the second time. This one has a little excess glue, but it's just practice arrow, so not the end of the world. All right, so anyway, let's get rid of that. I'm just gonna do 2, just because it's gonna take me a while to fletch with 1 Flitzenberger. Okay, so because I am doing wraps, I don't need to prep anything aside from using the primer pen on the back of the vein before I apply the glue. So I don't have to do anything to the arrow itself. If I wasn't doing wraps, I would have to use like an alcohol prep. So if you're not using wraps, maybe pay attention to that, but because I'm using wraps, I don't have to do that extra step. So we're gonna get right into putting wraps on and then the veins. All right, so these are the wraps I'm gonna be using. Korbin makes them. And typically they're longer, so you can get, I don't know the exact length of them, but he cuts them down. I like them to be just enough where your fletchings are gonna be kind of in the middle, I guess you could say, from each end of them. I think that looks pretty good. And it's long enough that, you know, if you have blood on your arrow, that you can see it easily. So I like to use like bright colors because then you can see blood, and that'll help determine what type of shot you had on your deer or animal. If it's questionable, I definitely like to have the ability to see the blood as opposed to like a black surface where blood's hard to see. So that's about the length. I don't know, I would say maybe like 5 inches or so is a good length. But that's just personal preference. So this is one that I already had done, and I'm gonna show you guys in a sec. We'll just do a couple, that way you can see the process. But essentially, you wanna get a surface that has a little bit of give to it, so like a piece of cardboard or something that's not just a hard surface. And you're gonna take one of your wraps, Try not to get too many fingerprints on it. And then you're just gonna lay them. Try to get them as straight as you can. I like to use like the edge of a surface. So on this far edge. So essentially you can do however you want, but I put the logo part towards the knock side, so that's gonna be this side. And you just wanna line your arrow up on the edge of whatever surface you're using. And then the end of the wrap is gonna go right in line with where your knock is. And then you just make sure it's all straight. And then you start rolling. Rolling with a little bit of pressure. And then what I like to do is roll just enough to kind of get an idea. Make sure it's on there pretty good. And then you just put some pressure and roll it on. Not bad, not bad. So that's pretty straightforward, nothing too complicated or crazy. So yeah, looks good. Veins. So take a seat. So the veins that I've got, which this is the one thing I actually somewhat know what I'm doing here. And we have got, like I said earlier, the AAE Hybrids. And they are 2.3 inches, so 2 3/16. And what I'm gonna do is 3 of the green and 1 black. I honestly like to have a lot more of a lighter color, aside from black or like a dark color, on my veins and wraps, because then, like I said earlier, you can see blood and you can tell what type of blood it is if it's easier to see. But that's just my preference. Last year I had the white, which really worked out. So yeah. Now, if I can organize everything here. So, primer pen. To be honest, I'm pretty sure Korbin said I don't need that for these veins, but we're gonna do it anyway because it's better to be safe than sorry. Essentially, the primer just keeps it clean, and it allows your glue to bond a lot easier to your vein and your arrow. So, and we just got the AAE Max Bond glue adhesive, vein adhesive. So, with your Blitzen-Burger, which I think this thing's already set up. Center. Okay, so I've got a slight, nope, no helical. Okay, so I have no helical, which I might need. Left to right. Hold on, y'all. Let me just double check this thing, make sure. Straight on. Okay, so. Did I do straight last year? So there's this different ways. There are different ways that you can put your veins on. There's different helicals, which there's supposedly a whole science behind left and right helical, which is basically the way that your vein is positioned on your bow or on your arrow. And I just have mine completely straight. The helical essentially is gonna determine or dictate your drag through the wind. So as it's flying, if you have a right helical, your arrow is gonna spin, it's gonna spin to the right, and if it's left, it's gonna spin left. Kind of like a ceiling fan, how your blades in your fan have a little bit of an angle, and then they turn in that direction. It's the same thing. It just determines if it spins one way or the other, which really you don't see it. I think it's based on what your bow prefers. I don't know all the logistics of this. I just know that helical determines how your arrow spins and if it can correct itself. If your bow is not properly tuned, it might make a difference. But with my 4 fletch, I just have them completely straight. And to be honest, I think they fly like a dart. And that's kind of why I like the 4 fletch, because I feel like the 4 fletch and the 4 blades on my broadheads, they really just correct my arrow flight. Even though I do tune my bow. But I don't know all the science with that. If you want to know more about that, you have to ask someone who knows what they're talking about more than I do. But for the purposes of this arrow build, we're not going to do any helical. It's just going to go straight on. There's not going to be any sort of turn to it. And I think this is already set up for it. So what I'm going to do is put it right on the first mark here. And that gets it, like I was saying earlier, enough of where the fletchings are fairly center from end to end. Well, I guess that's a bad example, there you go. It gets it about, well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2. So like 3/4 of the way from the knock. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. And what you do is you stick your arrow in, and depending on how, some people get really crazy with it, where they literally they'll find where the label is and line up their logo part to the certain part of a label, and then they'll make sure that same exact spot gets placed first with this color and all that. I really think that's only important so you can kind of keep uniformity with your stuff. I like to keep my stuff fairly uniform, but I'm not like a psycho with lining everything up completely. I really don't think that, I haven't noticed a difference at least. But like I said, I'm only shooting 40 yards at an animal, so if something's gonna go wrong, it's gonna go wrong, and there's nothing I can do about it at that point. All this stuff that I'm doing prior, prep work, all that kind of stuff, it's obviously important, but little things like that I don't think are gonna make a big difference at that distance. So we're gonna start with the label. Okay, so what you're gonna do, put your vein in the clamp, get your primer pen, just do a quick little line. That's literally it. Let it dry for half a second, and then glue, which don't overdo it on the glue because you can have too much. So I like to start a little bit away from the edge. The important part is, this is what Korbin told me, is when you get it on here, there's a little divot in this bottom that this clamp like sits in. So you want to push that down and then push it straight this way. Actually, I lied. You want to get it right above that. And then you're going to start at the bottom and then push it to the top. So essentially you're going to make sure the contact starts here first, and then you just slowly push the whole vein onto the arrow. Just make sure it's snug. And then you wait. You gotta let it dry. Really, I don't know, like a minute or two is probably okay if you just try not to bump them. And then from there, you'll just unclamp, rotate your arrow to the next spot, and do the next one. All right, so we are all done. I put a little too much glue there. It could probably use a few more minutes of drying, but there you have it. That is a freshly put together arrow, and then all I'm gonna do is put some tips in. Currently I've got 100 grains, so we'll just put those in to shoot, but there is my arrow set up. I don't have enough battery left in this camera to do any more, so sorry, but there you have it. If you guys want, I can weigh it real quick so we know roughly how many grains we got. Let me turn this on. Zeroed out with grains. I got my broadhead on here. So this is the full weight. All right, 365 grains. So for those of you who saw, it is 365 grains total arrow weight, which, to be honest, I don't know if I've ever actually weighed that before. But I don't know, I'm pretty happy with it. Obviously there's some trial and error that goes along with it, but I've built arrows a few times now, so my repetition, I'm getting slightly better. And I don't know, I like building my own. I like learning the whole process. I don't want to just claim to be a bow hunter and then not know anything about bow hunting outside of hunting. So the whole process for me, it's fun learning and just being able to say that I can do the whole thing. And like I said, my setup's not crazy different from last year, so I'm not real concerned with having anything change or be too different, other than my bow. My bow is different, so I'm curious if that's gonna affect it in any sort of way, but I'm gonna get the rest of these built up, and we'll be shooting this summer, so a lot of shooting videos are gonna be coming your way, and you're gonna see right alongside me how things are going. So that'll be fun, and I'm excited because it's finally warm outside now, so I'm ready to get shooting. So we're gonna build these and go from there. So thanks for watching, guys, and feel free to subscribe if you like, and see you in the next one.